That's going to take some time. You're not going to want to hear this, but it's going to take some time before you feel 100% normal. But the good news is you will come back to feeling normal with the right work and the right changes, and you weather this storm. Mark my words, you will get better. And that was the question I had more than any question. I was going through this hell of weaning. I just kept thinking, am I going to get better? Am I ever going to go back? Because it doesn't seem like it. And I was having such bad symptoms. I was searching for the answers. I kept talking to people, and depending on who you speak to, some people had successfully got off benzos and had healed and were like, I'm doing great and you will too. And that was motivational. And then I talked to people like, I couldn't do it. I ended up getting on antidepressant. My life is spiraling out of control. Anxiety never goes away. And then you go, oh my God, what is that going to be me? And you just don't know. You don't know where you're going to end up in this thing. And it's really frightening. And you're sitting there trying to weather this storm, and you're trying not to feed into these anxieties, but it's right there in the back of your mind, like, I don't know if I can endure this forever. I don't want to endure this forever. I'm here to tell you, 99% chance of not enduring this forever. You're going to get better. You're going to heal. But as I keep saying, you got to do the day work, as I call it, the homework. The work that gets you better. You're going to have to embrace in that. So it's going to take a while. It took me maybe a year after I weaned. And in fact, when I first got off, it was a weird ride, right? So at first it was like, dramatic increase of a lot of positive things. Like I felt my emotions coming back in a better, healthier way, and I was more appreciative of my life, and the anxiety went down, and I was motivated to start changing, and I changed my major in college, and like all these things were just going for me. I got back to my artwork, and that was doing really good. And then it sort of dropped off again, and all this anxiety kind of came back, and I started having sleep problems. I was, what is this? And I felt that there was a critical point there where I had a choice. I could have worked harder and made even better lifestyle changes, better dieting, better exercising, better work on my sleep, more focus on my life, or I could have just sort of become a victim to these circumstances and then just sort of slid back. I don't know how far I would have slid back. I don't think I would have started taking something again, like a benzo for anxiety, but I could see where I would have quickly just kind of become reclusive and been fearful in my life and not embraced the things that I was motivated previously to do. Now I'm going, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle that. There was a choice to be made, and luckily for me, I just said, no. I've gone through too much. I want the best life I can get. I'm going for it. And that's really the attitude that I'm trying to encourage in you guys. If you're listening to this, when you get to that point where you're off, if you have that experience, stay strong. It's the final, again, I keep equating this to a hurricane. It's one of those, like, the hurricane passes, but there's a couple bands out there, those weather bands that still hit you, like a tropical storm band. And you'll have a few of those, and you got to just weather those last bands and keep doing the right thing. Keep on your diet, keep exercising, keep getting out of the house, keep watching positive films and engaging in art and working on your relationships and working on yourself. Keep evolving, essentially. I mean, evolving, I think, is, without getting too much into psychological theory about human growth, I'm a big supporter of personal evolution. I really believe that when a person stops evolving themselves, that's when a lot of neurosis and disorders start emerging. And in evolving, I mean, evolution didn't end with your thumbs. Evolution means keep going. What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What's the best version of you that you can be in all forms? And go for that. That's what I'm saying. So during this period, you're going to be wanting to do, this is where like all the more personal work starts to begin. Remember I said earlier, when you're going through all these symptoms, don't focus on this trauma or whatever you can correlate to causal factors for your anxiety. Don't focus on that. But now this is the part where you kind of want to start focusing on that. Now this is where the more personal work begins. This is where you start looking at past relationships that you were involved in, things that happened to you, the way you treated people, the way people treated you, patterns in your life, behaviors, response patterns, all those type of things. And you want to start trying to find meaning in them. At this point, if you can afford counseling, I always think counseling is good. I mean, I know there's a taboo with it, like, I go to counseling, there's something really wrong with me. But no, even psychologists go to counseling, and that's a regular practice in psychology. Psychologists will go to counseling just because they see the value in having an outside perspective on their life, and they realize that they have blinders up, defense mechanisms, that there's areas in their life that they simply can't see. And they know the value of having someone on the outside who's trained specifically, not just a friend, because that could bring a whole host of problems. But having someone that doesn't know us from the outside, that can look at us objectively and give us some guidance. And, if you look at a psychologist like that perspective, like being a mentor in a sense, or like Gandalf in the Lord, the Lord of Rings. It's just someone that's out there that has some kind of knowledge that can be reflective to you. Like, that's pretty powerful. So why not? If you can afford it, do that. If not, then there's a lot of other ways to have to explore ourselves and our consciousness and our lives. And some of us are really good at it. Some of us are terrible at it. That's something you're not going to get around. You have to do this. So what I always tell people is weaning off benzo doesn't end when you take your last dose. It ends when you identify what's got you twisted and you address that. And that's kind of the theme of this video here, Life After Benzos. What got you twisted to begin with? Was it trauma you needed to heal with? Was it some kind of distorted self-image? Did you come from an abusive environment or abusive relationships? What is it? And how do you heal from it? These are personal, deeply personal things that we have to explore. But the one thing I can assure you is if you just turn your blinders on to these things and just think that you're just going to go walk off into the sunset and never pay attention to them, rarely do we ever heal, at least in an effectively way, in a way that's effective by just trying to outrun our problems. There's a point where you have to address them. And there's many ways to address them, right? And also I want to mention that it's important to remind yourself that a lot of us do have a biological disposition, meaning even after you do all this day work, so to speak, this homework, and you identify what's wrong with you and what's got you twisted, and you work on your relationships and you get healthier and all these things, some of us are just more anxious than others. Some of us will have just these little tics, prone to depression and things like that. But what I'm saying is, by doing all these things, these tics or these neurotic tendencies are going to be much, much more reduced. They're not going to be able to take over your life and hijack your life. They're going to be, and they'll be foreseeable. You'll know that, when I get engaged in this, if I drink too much, or if I don't be social enough, I can get this tinge of social anxiety that will come up, and you kind of foresee it, and then you do the right things ahead of time. You predict the outcomes, and you make changes immediately. Just minor changes that really redirect the entire future. So if you sit in the house too long, you start getting social anxiety, then make the effort to go out, weekly, daily if you can, and just get out and be a little more social, and you keep everything balanced. That's the name of the game. And really, these things are so much more common than people realize. You're not the minority. You're not the 1% in America or in your country that suffers these things. It's overwhelming. I would say majority. Just people don't talk about it. So remember that there's a mind-body connection, that chemistry influences thoughts and behaviors, and behaviors influence chemistry, and it's a continuum. It's like the infinity symbol. It just keeps going back and forth, feeding each other. So if you have good thoughts and good behaviors, and you do the right things, and you shut out the negatives, you will slowly but surely start correcting your thoughts. Another thing I didn't mention in the other video that I probably should have, but I kind of left it out because sometimes this can be a little strange for people and sometimes too much, is the value of Zen meditation. I had a hard time Zen meditating when I was coming off benzos, which I was great at meditating, and I thought that was going to be this great tool for helping me. And some people, it's wonderful. It changes everything for them. They learn to meditate, and it controls their symptoms, and it really can be transformative. I had a little bit of trouble with it. I don't know, every time I tried to meditate, it felt like my thoughts would just get more active. And so what I would do is sort of secondary meditation. I would focus on, watching a film or something like a comedy film, or engaging in art, something that I wasn't completely no mind in a mindless state, but I was in a more focused state. But life afterwards, I think it's so important to discover yoga and Zen meditation. And I'm not saying, the spiritual aspect of it, you need to go join a monastery. I'm just saying the aspect of learning to control your obsessive thoughts, and the practice of seeing and identifying which thoughts are real versus the sort of negatively influenced or negatively charged sort of illusionary thoughts. So, and that's something that sort of comes about from the practice of meditating. So look into meditating, because that's another one with exercise and that has been shown on a chemical level to bring about positive changes. So it's powerful. So before I go, I just want to say, be kind to yourself, love yourself. Chances are when you went through that storm, or while you're going through the storm, it's really hard to see the forest from the trees, so to speak. It's hard to be kind to ourselves and to love ourselves, but engage life, live, love, laugh, realize life's a short ride. Don't let that frighten you. and paralyze you with fear, but motivate you. Get out there, kick some ass, pursue your dreams. Don't be afraid to love, and utilize your resources. You got resources around you. There's signs, there's things out there trying to communicate with you, and not a metaphysical way, but there's these intricacies out there. And I think when you start engaging life and embracing life and trying to promote a happier lifestyle, you start to get turned on to them. Like, oh, I didn't notice that. Look at that. Or I was interested in this, and then I met this person, and they happened to be interested in that, and then that door opened. Life's sort of magical in that way sometimes, without sounding like Michael Jackson about it. So go live your life. Your life's waiting to begin. Any comments or questions not covered in this discussion, drop me a line or something, and if there's enough, or I'll either write you back or maybe I'll address them in a video. Good luck, guys. Stay strong. This too shall pass.
Hey everyone, I've just released my new book on benzo recovery called The Powers Manual, Benzo Recovery Guide. Many of you have asked for it, and finally I'm able to offer it to you. The Powers Manual encompasses everything I know about benzodiazepine dependence and recovery, stemming not only from my personal experience with benzo recovery, but combined with my knowledge as a soon-to-be licensed doctoral-level clinical psychologist. The therapeutic techniques and tools I use to make a full drug recovery are included in this book. The Powers Manual covers everything from symptoms management and taper plan to help with sleep, diet, exercise, and even uses cognitive behavioral techniques to address the pre-existing condition of anxiety and depression. Recovery is possible, but it will require us to fight, not flight.